A ghost fleet sits outside the Puget Sound Naval Shipyard. Aircraft carriers that supported missions for 50 years are gathering rust or are being used for parts. Now, USS Nimitz is going through some of the heaviest work that these ships had to go through to keep it going around the globe for the remainder of its life. Nimitz has been wrapped up while sailors and shipyard workers toil around the clock to get it looking seaworthy again. But looks alone won't get this 36-year-old ship running. Inside the back of the ship, contractors are applying dry ice to pull out the rudder pin so that the rudders can continue to turn smoothly.
The dry ice we fill the rudder stock with it, which is the pin that holds the rudder onto the boat. It helps keep the metal from transferring heat when we heat the opposing pieces with ceramic heaters.
The metal pin must be shrunk by getting it to a certain temperature, while the part that holds it in place is expanded with heat. When the pin is ready, it is hooked up to a crane. The ship is designed to have deck plates removed so that the crane can pull the rudder out from the flight deck.
We have to shrink the metal. We pull the rudder post up through all the decks, and it comes out the flight deck with the crane, and we're able to back the rudder out. After we break the interference fit, we hook up our L-pars to the outside of the rudder, a big clamp fixture, and we're able to back the rudder out. So at the end, you have the rudder stocks hanging in the crane, and the rudder blade is sitting in the L-pars.
Once the rudder is removed, the pin is brought back in with the crane. Scaffolding is then built around the rudder in the dry dock. The pin is lowered so the contractors can see if it still fits inside the rudder.
We have to check the contact between the rudder stock and the rudder blade itself. So we clean everything really good, and we'll use a transfer die from one piece to the other, and we'll drop the stock down inside using the crane, and it'll make contact in the rudder blade in the bore. We'll pull it out and we'll read the transfer, and we have to have a certain percentage of contact between the two components. We can machine it and cut a lot of the corrosion out, and then go through that process again, and we'll get a better contact. The extreme cases, we have to weld build up that area and then machine it.
Over time, this rudder pin has shrunk and been warped.
See all the blue spots? That's where it's touching. Everything else is not. Okay. What we want to see is about 90% contact. So this, in theory, should be all blue. Where we laid all the blue.
After the pin is tested, the rudder is laid on its side and lifted out by crane to a warehouse where it will be renewed over the next few months.
The rudder blade's taken out. There's cracking in it. We have to inspect the whole blade itself. The surfaces where it comes in contact need to be cleaned and inspected. We have to make sure they're not cracked and pitted too bad, too much corrosion or repair. There's a lot of preservation that goes into it before it comes back out here. It gets completely sandblasted and repainted before it comes back. That process can take 4 to 5 months.
While contractors and shipyard workers fix the rudders, sailors are working on pulling the catapults out of the flight deck so jets can be launched when they head back out to sea. On cue, 2-person teams crank the catapult out by hand. This process repeats for the next few hours as they slowly make progress.
Well, today we lifted Cat 3's cylinders, and we do this because over the course of time and launching a lot of aircraft, the gap in the cylinder starts to separate. So we do this to raise up the cylinders, pull them apart, and it closes the gap so we can put them back to operational status. Pull one cylinder up at a time. It takes about 65 to 70 sailors and about 6 VRT technicians to complete this whole evolution.
The catapult has accumulated a buildup of grime over time, making the catapult heavier. Once both sides are lifted, metal beams are put underneath to hold them up, while another team goes underneath to scrub the muck out.
Right now we're getting rid of all the fog and all the old grease and all the built-up stuff that's been down here ever since the last time we pulled up this catapult. Right now, what we're doing, I'm cleaning off all of our foot pads. I make sure all the grease lines work and all this other things. So make sure that the grease can get to the foot pad where it's supposed to be.
When I checked on board my first ship, that was my first job, like to get in there and clean the cat. And I must have ruined about all my coveralls. I ruined them. I remember that. It's a very dirty job. So now we have these white little suits that we use, and it saves the uniform because uniforms add up. You know, it gets expensive. So we have these white suits that the sailors use, and it saves money in uniforms.
On the side of the ship, preparations are being made to add a whole new platform. The new platform, called a sponson, will allow security teams to place a gun mount on another area of the ship to protect it while entering dangerous areas. Markings on the hull show where an upgraded sponson will soon be attached. The sponson is built in a warehouse on the other side of the controlled industrial area.
This is for a gun mount platform. I want to say this one here particularly took about 3 months. It's going to take about 3 months total. We have the skill and ability here to make pretty much whatever our customer wants. We've had quite a few change of hands working on this project, but everybody gets familiar with it really quick. Right now we're at the final stages. This has been about approximately 2 months now in the making.
After most of the building and welding is completed inside, the sponson is brought outside and the final touches are done while the workers wait for a truck to bring it down the road. Some ways down the road, a crane will lift the sponson off of the truck, bringing it the rest of the way to the ship where it can be welded in place.
They're going to be, for the general, most of it, they're going to be from a JLG, so they're going to be suspended over the dry dock in a basket and weld around the whole thing until it gets secured.
All the preparations are in place, but the shipyard workers have a long night ahead of them. That night, the sponson is moved into position. Riggers will move it carefully. The platform must be aligned perfectly. The next morning, the day shift workers will continue work on the sponson. Now begins the long process of welding it into place.
They're going to hook it up to the crane for about 5 days and weld around the clock until it gets secured enough to release it from the crane.
Summer has finally rolled around, and more progress has been made around the ship. The rudders are back, and they're not the only thing that's been fixed. The propellers and propeller shafts, one of the first things to be removed, are finally being reinstalled. Also waiting at the end of the pier, the anchors float on a platform waiting to be put into their proper place. But first, the chains must be linked together.
I've been doing it for about 10 years. I did the Carl Vinson, the Lincoln, not a Nimitz, so it's getting pretty easier now. So hours, days, weeks. It take you about, if you got a good manpower, if it's just me and him, it feels like 4 or 5 people. It'll take a good week for one chain, one day. We can put up 3 to 4 shots up in one day.
It may seem like an easy task, but the links are heavy.
It's 350 pounds of link. And you can see I don't work out all day, so I got to use the forklift to help me lift it, so.
Moving chains with the forklift is the easy part. Connecting them is not. A red link will connect the 2 chains. The first side slides into place. Turning the red link to connect the other side will be much harder.
Like Tetris, like you're playing Tetris around here. It's like putting puzzle pieces together, you know what I'm saying?
In other words, it's a lot of guesswork to get the places to fit, and all this moving is stripping the new paint job.
You got to work with it. You got to play with the chain until you get it correctly done. You know what I'm saying? Believe me, it ain't no easy fit. You got to work with it. You got to just put it up left, right, up, down, upside down. And see, try every trick in the book. Really, that's what I do. Trying every trick in the book.
There can be a lot of tricks to learn, though, and it takes a long time to learn them all.
Week and a half for one raw chain, a good week and a half. If we get more manpower, we should be able to do it. But between me and this old guy right here, we're trying our best.
Their best is enough to get the job done. With a little more working, the link finally cooperates and fits into place.
You can't do it by yourself. You can't. It's hard work, really.
Now for the final piece. This time, success comes quickly.
Got it.
A lead rod will hold the final piece in position, and a victory dance follows. In the forecastle, sailors raise the completed chain into the ship as the anchors sit in the dry dock. The anchor can't be moved so easily, though, and must be placed on rolling planks. The anchor must be brought up slowly to avoid damaging the hull. The massive anchor swings back and forth. Communication between the dry dock and forecastle is crucial to get the anchor in place while avoiding damage to the ship. Everyone is watching as the anchor is reunited with its place along the hull. As summer's end draws near, the ship is finally coming together. The Nimitz's time in dry dock is coming to a close.